Hi, I am Mohamed Ly, Regional Director, Western Central Africa at EngenderHealth. So exciting to be speaking today with Lucy Kennedy. Lucy is a documentary producer and a filmmaker who directed the 8th Amendment documentary film that follow Ireland move the 8th Amendment revealing a constitutional ban on abortion. At EngenderHealth in Western Central Africa, we support national and regional efforts to expand access to safe abortion care. We support local organizations to organize value clarification session. We also work with a youth-led organization and the community to, as I've said before, to organize value clarification sessions. Recently, in Benin, the parliament adopted a law on October 21 to give access to abortion to women. And we working to implement, to help the government and healthcare providers to implement this new law in Benin. It is a very exciting part of our work because we know that we improve lives of women and girls, not only saving lives, but making sure that they can go to school and they can keep their social, their economic activities. So this is what we're doing here in Côte d'Ivoire and in Western Central Africa region. Lucy, in your film, The 8th Amendment, you follow advocates on both sides of the debate. And from your lens, I want to know from your lens what kept the advocates going, and how did they stay optimistic during such trying times? I think it is something we want to know and to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Mohamed, and thank you for having me. And congratulations on the law in Benin as well. That's huge progress. So in terms of in the film, The 8th, the activists, I think it was reproductive rights were not available to women in Ireland for historically at all. And then in 1983, there was a constitutional ban on abortion. And I think in the early days, the people who were advocating for reproductive justice were very much in the minority. And then things began to change with a lot of work over a long period of time. And by the time we get to 2016, 2017, there was a huge momentum around changing things. And there was a big movement of youth actually who just came out, young women and young men who were like, we're just tired of this and we're not going to take it anymore. And I think that momentum helped spur people on. And I would say we have gotten a lot of reaction to the film from advocates actually and activists across the world who work in the sphere of reproductive justice. And they have found it inspiring and hopeful because in many places, the US included now, things can look quite bleak. But if you look at Benin and if you look at Ireland, places that were traditionally, historically considered very much more conservative than the United States, these movements over time, patience and time, really came to a groundswell and resulted in real change. So I think that is something to hold on to when things are difficult, as they are in many places in the world at the moment.
Yes, sure. I think this is very inspiring, hearing that we have progress in Ireland, progress in Benin also. And I'm seeing that the importance of involving the community in the work and also the work of the feminists. I think in our region, we have also opportunity to work with feminist organization, and as I've said before, with youth-led organization. And this is a very important lens of our work, and glad to see that that works in Ireland and in Benin, that work also, and expecting that we'll have more and more results in the region.
Yeah, Mohamed, I mean, I think that that is absolutely essential. You know, I think you've really put your finger on it, because without local involvement, without grassroots campaigns, without local organizations, it's impossible to get real change, or extremely difficult, because people respond to the people they know, they trust, they're, you know, rather than someone coming in from the outside and telling them what to do. It really, for it to be sustainable, I think it has to, local organizations have to be central to the dialogue and the movement.
And one point, I think previously, advocacy around abortion was seen in our region as something coming from other countries, so coming from US, coming from Europe. But now, with the work of local organizations, with the emergence of local feminist groups, we see that the needs come from the population, the needs come from the ground. So this is something very important. This is why at EngenderHealth, we want to make sure that we work closely with local organizations. We help them to amplify their voice, but we're not speaking on their behalf. This is very important for us. This is what we're doing in Côte d'Ivoire, what we're doing in Benin, to make sure that it is not what we want, it is not what EngenderHealth wants, but it is what the community wants. And our work is just to help them to come with support to make sure that their work can go on.
That sounds amazing. It really is crucial, because while there are a lot of commonalities among feminists across the world, and we can all sort of look to each other for support and help, you're absolutely right. And I think that's terrific that that's the work that you're doing to amplify the voices of women in the community, because each community, like in Ireland, you know, has their own singular needs and perspectives and history. And in Ireland, we have a very particular history, you know, in which there was the dominance of the Catholic Church, and women, there was a long period of time when women in crisis pregnancies were sent away and their babies were taken from them and they were shipped off. And, you know, there's a lot of trauma there. And I think to really have change, that trauma needs to be recognized, and the only people who understand that are the people who come from the community itself.
And I think data is the key also on that. Showing evidence maybe can create a movement, can come with a new dynamic. And I think if you look at what happened in Benin, religious and some groups try to stop the process of adoption of this law. But the ministry shows evidences, data on number of women died every year trying to have access to abortion. And I think in the region, it is something that's happening more and more. I think the government, the ministry are seeing evidences because we have some data on abortion. And if we add the evidence on the work the youth-led organization and all these local organizations are doing, and I think we have strong ways to move forward. So I wanted to insist on that and to say that in our context, data is key, because most of the time when you raise the question, of abortion. It is considered by the ministry as something not important, small thing you don't have to take care of. But when you show data coming with what happened done by the communities, I think they realize that it is something very important.
I think that's exactly what happened in Ireland as well. Like, I think that there was so much silence, stigma, and shame, but then people started to realize, wait a minute, abortion is happening. Whether it's legal, whether it's illegal, women will always need reproductive rights. So given that it's happening, we really need to regulate it properly. And it's healthcare for women, and we need to give this opportunity to women to make their own decisions. And I think that's the data is essential for that. I think what we found in Ireland is the two things that were important was the data absolutely was essential, and then also the sort of brave women that came forward who told their own stories, because that people could relate to on a human level. And that really, people started to realize, and men started to realize, oh, my daughter, my daughter's friend, my cousin, my sister, needed an abortion or had an abortion and they never told me. So I think the sort of, once we can wash away the sort of shame and stigma that is associated with it in conjunction with hard facts and evidence, I think that makes a huge change.
Yes, sure. I think that is a very crucial point. I was very happy to speak with you. Thank you. It was I very loved having this hearing from you on what happened in Ireland. Thank you so much, and hope we'll have chance in the future to talk about another country that will not be Benin, maybe Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and so forth. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and it was so interesting to hear about the work and the progress that you've made in Benin and your plans for other countries, and just to sort of, we live very far away from each other on other sides of the world, but it's so interesting to hear the commonalities and the experiences as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me too.